So every year there always seems to be this one show that everyone starts watching out of nowhere, and you just keep hearing about it. And everyone's just like, have you watched it? It's just, I don't know what it is. There's
Yeah,
always that show that comes around. And for some reason, most of the time, that's like the one show we're not on top of for
I
some
know.
reason. Right. And so I'm hearing all of this rumbling about baby reindeer. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And I look at the poster and it's like a guy in a cup with a girl over him. And I'm thinking, okay, is this like Misery?
Hmm.
And is it horror or this and that? Well, it's definitely not horror. It's definitely horrific. And it's definitely a thriller. And it's definitely a drama and a dark comedy.
Yeah.
As far as horror goes, I don't know if I'd go into that territory exactly. So, no. But there are moments where I'd be like, this is pretty freaking horror-ish.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. So, what this show is about is a true story. Always take that with a grain of salt. But, supposedly a true story, recounting the events that surround this stalking. And we have our main character here, Donnie, and he meets this woman, Martha, in a bar. And Martha becomes obsessive with him and stalks him. And we just kind of see the insanity from there. Now, I want to make sure that people understand this, but I don't want to say too much right out
Hmm.
the gate just to give it a minute. I do want to talk spoilers for this show, though. There's no way I could talk about this show without it. But for those of you who have not seen the show, just to sell it to you, the thing I'll say about this show is that if you think from a very brief synopsis like that, you have a grasp on the show, you don't. This show is not going to be like anything that you've watched.
No.
This show goes into different places than you'll ever expect it to.
Yes.
And what I really, really love about this show is a couple things. Number one is that the main guy, the main actor in this, is the real life person who this story is about. And what brings so much weight to that in knowing that is the dark places this show goes, and it goes into dark, dark places.
Yeah.
Him reliving that, to put this on film is incredible enough, but his performance is phenomenal as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one major thing there. And another thing that I love about this show is that, as I had said, it is so wildly unpredictable, and it never tries to be like black and white with things. It is a very honest and raw piece of work
Yeah.
that shows that everyone has a dark side to them. Everyone, no one is like squeaky clean. That, behind the scenes, it always seems like, oh, they're the victim and they're the villain. And it's like, in some instances, sure, there's much more of the villainous persona in the mix versus the person who really just didn't do anything. But I just love that this story goes in different directions than I ever expected, and that our character here is not some, perfect hero
Yeah.
that's like, oh, just poor him. And for him to admit all of this like depravity and darkness and things that would not put him in a good light is just beyond brave.
Yeah.
And I love it because this to me is truth. To me, this makes it feel so much more genuine. And I love that about this show.
Yeah, it's definitely very unpredictable and very dark. As you said though, like the based on a true story, taking that with a grain of salt. I do have to like I don't know. I do wonder a little bit if it is like how accurate it is to his life, of
Sure.
course. And it's weird because, there's a lot of topics that are touched on in this, and like one of, it's like, I don't know. It's hard because it's like I don't want to say I don't believe things, right? Because I think that there's a lot of vulnerability that's happening in like what he talks about, like that has happened to him. So I'm not doubting anything like that, but obviously when you make like a Netflix show, like there is a sensationalism to it. It actually, like after we finished this, I was very much reminded it's not really similar in terms of the content, but I had the same feeling when I finished Tiger King, where it's kind of like, you're, I don't know, it's not reality TV, but it sort of has that kind of feel to it. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're watching like a train wreck happening. And it definitely caused a lot of different emotions in me, I'll say that, when we were watching it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a recommendation. Like
Oh
it's
my
it,
God,
it
huge.
sucks you in, and it's pretty quick. Like it's only I think
7.
7 episodes. So
And they're only about 30 to 40 minutes
yeah,
apiece.
it's a fast watch, and there's a lot of stuff that happens, and there's a lot of stuff that's, as I said, let's talked about that he goes through that I think is really important to talk about and to bring like awareness to. But yeah, okay, we can get into spoilers.
Well, yeah, I mean, last thing I'll say before spoilers too is he's excellent for sure. But the woman who plays Martha
Oh yeah, she's
is
phenomenal.
also phenomenal.
She's
in this.
phenomenal.
Like, my God, the places she goes with this character, the kind of, you know, the heights of like her happiness and when she's in her like flirtatious, happy mood
Yeah.
versus the dark places she goes.
Yeah.
She feels legitimately like the most genuine stalker with mental illness that I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
She feels so authentic to somebody who is living in a complete fucking fantasy world.
Yeah. She's like definitely one of the top performances that I've seen of somebody portraying mental illness. I always think about the director and writer of Be My Cat as like another one, but she's fantastic. She does such a wonderful job. And I felt so many different things for her. Like throughout it. So
Well, and
it
that's
was
just
pretty
it.
intense.
This
yeah.
is just such an absolutely devastating show.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I kept feeling throughout is just, I felt so sad.
Yes.
And I want to say that that is kind of a bit of a warning to people. This show is not for, like, the faint of heart when it comes to people who are easily triggered by rape and suicide and all sorts of different things that they touch upon within the show. I don't know, man. And drug use, of course, and it goes into some really, really dark places. So anyway, yeah, spoilers for sure from here. Just because there's things that it's like, you know, you want to talk about them. So if you haven't seen it, shut it off. Come back if you'd like. Netflix. It's a pretty quick watch, but there's so much depth to that runtime. It's kind of remarkable. We kind of blew through this pretty quick. We could have sat and watched this in a day.
Yeah,
no problem.
we could have,
we
but
just, our time.
I actually prefer the way we watched it because I feel like there was a lot to digest with each episode. God. Especially when you get into like the later episodes, it was like a lot. It was very heavy.
I think it's episode 4.
Yeah.
Is that the one where it goes? It's either 3 or 4.
Yeah.
With the writer. That was like, oh.
It was intense and really hard to watch.
So spoilers.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, when we first meet Martha, I definitely was like, okay, we got, I got a grasp on this show. Like, I know what
Yeah.
this is going to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's going to be nuts, and his life is going to get turned upside down trying to get this crazy woman out of his life.
Yeah.
And then we start to see, there's so many moments in this show where you especially, but we kept looking over at each other. Like, what? Wait. What the fuck is going on? Like, what's about to happen right now? And we kind of like, when you make that realization, that's when we kind of looked over at each other like, wait a minute, is he gonna like fuck her now? Is he gonna, and speaking of which, one thing I would assume now, at the moment though, I was very unclear on if he actually had sex with her in that scene, but that's just a fantasy he's having while he's screwing his girlfriend.
It was the way it's shot is very confusing, but yeah, he didn't sleep with her.
Yeah.
Because afterwards he goes, we're jumping like super far ahead, but afterwards he like tells her like, I'm gonna hang your curtains.
Right.
Like that's when he tries to like entrap her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. So the first time, yeah. No, I know now he definitely didn't, but
yeah.
Oh my God, just
there's so much.
There is
like,
so much. I feel like you could take this episode by episode easily and discuss every single aspect of it, because there's just like, there's so much I want to discuss about every single thing in this show.
Like, the way it starts too with her just kind of coming in and being like, oh yeah, like I'm a lawyer, like I know all these famous people, and you're just like, oh, okay, like got it. As you said, like you just, at that point, you're like, I know what's gonna happen.
I know where this is going.
And then when it just sort of, when you find out how mentally unwell he is as well, that's when things get really kind of insane, because it's like they are like the worst kind of people for each other. And they like are on a collision course, and it's just like they're a catastrophe like waiting to happen. That does happen.
Yeah.
So
they gravitate towards each other for a reason.
100%. And I had like a lot of mixed feelings about him in particular. I still honestly at the end don't really know how to feel about him. I have a lot of like, it's weird because it's like I really appreciate like what the show does as far as him talking about like his experience being raped and everything, but I'm also really confused about like the ending of that, like when he returns to that guy and talks to him and then like accepts a job offer from him, like all of that.
I don't think he actually accepts the offer. I think he just kind of freezes and accepts it, but I don't think he ends up working with him.
I don't know, but I was very much like, what just happened? Like, I thought he was going to go there to yell at him or something.
But that's what this show is.
Yeah.
It's always the subversion of expectations. He's going to go there, and he's going to have the big confrontation, the showdown. He's going to make him see the light. He's going to ruin his life. He's going to put him on blast. He's going to get him arrested. And he just goes there, and he kind of just crumbles.
And I guess that is, like, the realistic, like, thing that probably a lot of people end up doing when they try and confront their abusers. So I'm not criticizing like him as a victim or anything like that. Like that's not really what I'm talking about, but I just like, I don't know. I just have questions, I guess, about everything with it.
I think one thing that we're kind of trained to do nowadays with movies and TV shows and entertainment that we watch is we expect some kind of retribution.
Yeah.
We expect a certain kind of resolution.
Yeah.
Right? And when we don't get what we want cathartically or, in a very final sense, where it's like you got closure or something and it leaves off, and then when it's a true story, that irks you even more because these things are supposed to go a certain way. When you find these stories, they're supposed to lead you down a path that go the way that, eventually you want them to. And it's just like this show never gives that to you.
Yeah.
It's never satisfying in that way.
No.
Right? He doesn't end up with the girl. He doesn't confront his attacker in the way that you want. There's just so much of that in here that I think because we're so used to watching, especially American cinema, where you get the catharsis, where you get the moment where the person stands up for themselves. And he does to a degree. That
Sure.
isn't
Yeah.
void within here.
Yeah.
But it's a more realistic look at sometimes they don't stand up to their attacker. And having looked up some of it, and I very little, but having looked up some of the true story thus far, the people who are involved with him and know him and whatever, they say everyone's pretty certain and pretty aware of who his attacker was. But having said that, I mean, it's obvious he never came to justice.
Yeah.
Right? And he's still out there right now.
So, and that's, I mean, yeah, that's like what's really upsetting about it. And, you know, it's hard for people to go back like years later, obviously, and be like, you abused me, you raped me.
He
and,
blames
like,
himself,
seek
though.
justice.
That's
Yeah.
one of the
Absolutely.
problems.
And that's one of the, his brokenness, you know, is definitely what holds him back. And it is weird because it's like when we talk about this show, like, you know, a lot of times we don't really watch we don't review true stories, let alone a true story where the actual guy that like lived the experience is acting in it. So it is like really weird because like I'll like think about like talking about it, but it's not a character. Like this is a person, like an actual person who had this experience. So there is like a big difference, you know, in how I think you should be and how we should, you know, think about it. Because it is such a like popcorn kind of show. Like there's just like, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Like, and that is great writing. And, you know, obviously it's like somebody using art to work through their trauma and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like these are real people. So it's not fiction.
Yeah. And this show, or this story in particular, and there's plenty of other stories like this, but from what I'm about to say, but this is just yet another like laser pointer freaking PowerPoint presentation of like why people's sexualities being accepted is so important.
Yeah.
To have people like a part of what makes him so broken is that he is confused of his sexuality. And he then gets raped, which this is another thing, you know, we don't talk about enough because it is fairly taboo to explore the idea that somebody who's part of the LGBT community is there because they were abused. I know this is a topic that people are like, no, you're born this way and that's all there is to it. And it's like, there's so many layers and so many shades of different grays and what, you know, when it comes to anything, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, this is how it is across the board. No, that's just not how life works. And some people, you know, there are definitely lesbians that might not have been lesbians had they not been molested or raped when they were kids by men, which made them hate men and, you know, start dating women. To say that that does not exist is being just as closed-minded, is being just as like you're working against your own cause. Because I think getting to the truth of the situation is always best, and I do think a part of his bisexuality comes from his confusion trying to deal with his rape. Like,
Yeah, but I mean,
did I go there because I wanted it?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was I doing? Why did I
Yeah.
continue to keep letting him do it to me? I knew what was going on, and I continued to go back, and I continued to do harder and harder drugs, and every time I woke up, my dick was in his mouth or whatever, and it's like, do I like that? And then he finds the trans porn, and then that gets him going, oh, maybe, I don't know, and then he kind of gets the best of both worlds in his mind, and it's like, well, so it looks like a woman but it's kind of like a guy, and like he's like very confused. He's so confused, and it's in part of that, a big part of that is his rape. And I just think that's something that is never talked about because of the sensitivity people have towards that kind of discussion where it's like, you're fucking homophobic or transphobic or whatever the fuck, because you're just trying to have a legitimate conversation about this, and I think this show does a very good job of illustrating that some people are broken by their experiences, and that's what makes them who they are. In fact, we all are, but sexually.
Well, even like heterosexual people. I mean, there's so many different ways in which like sexual trauma or just trauma in general can change how you approach and view sex
Sure.
and your relationship with it.
Sure.
So it is something that is like hard to talk about because obviously now, you know, most people thankfully are, you know, like accepting of LGBT, you know, like the community. And so it's hard to be like, you're that way because of trauma or something, right? So it's like it is hard to talk about, and I think that's why I like the show. I like that it, you know, that he is so, like I said, vulnerable and open about really tough topics, because it's not easy, you know, and this is something that it's like, it's getting like viral kind of status, right? Like everybody's talking about baby reindeer, you know? And so it does take a lot of courage to be like, I'm going to put this like out for everybody to see. Like everybody. And you know, like also kind of not really about that, but because it's real people, and I know you had told me this and one of my coworkers had mentioned this to me, that like people are trying to find out who like the real Martha is and everything, and also
like
obviously
begging them not to.
Yeah, and that's like the danger to me in something like this, like a true story where it's like that person is out there somewhere, because we don't know like if she actually ended up getting help or anything. And you know, to be that person that's like all of a sudden you see a Netflix show like about you, that also has to be like a crazy experience of, I don't even know what would be going through your head, you know. And the other thing too, just aside from like talking about sexual trauma, but mental illness in general, like the show also is a great demonstration of why we need more mental health services like on the planet.
Yeah.
To help so many different people.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Martha, you know, like she is such an interesting person that has, and this is often the case, like I think a lot of people who don't have any mental illness, like they think that if you have a mental illness, like you're just psycho like the whole time, like you're just crazy and babbling. And she has moments of clarity. She has like these intelligent moments, like she's living in fantasy, like she's not in reality as we know it, but she's obviously able to like somewhat take care of herself. Like she was an attorney at one point, you know, like so there's like a deterioration in her like mental capacity for sure, but she's not like a blubbering idiot or something, which I think a lot of people, when they think of mental illness, that's like what comes to mind is like you're insane, like you can't do anything. And it's just not. There's so many different mental illnesses and they affect people in different ways, but you know, a lot of people that struggle with that aren't like, they're just people that you would never expect, that you just see on the street or like at the grocery store. And you would never think like, oh, they're like a serial stalker or, you know, whatever. They have multiple personality disorder or they're schizophrenic or whatever.
The thing that upsets me about mental illness is that people don't recognize it for what it is. And, you know, people have these like mental disorders and they have these mental diseases. And it's like people can recognize something that's more tangible to their mind, like cancer or, you know, a heart defect or something like that. And it's like people feel sorry for that and people want to try to go in, but that's something that can be fixed structurally because it's more of a mechanism, right? As to where an illness of the mind, I feel like we do we're very dismissive of it as a society, where we just kind of label people as crazy. Yeah. We're just like, they're fucking crazy. Like, we kind of find it almost humorous. Yeah. And, you know, your mental state being compromised is terrifying because, you know, there's just so little you can do about it. People think it's like a choice. Yeah. Like, if you have a mental illness, all you have to do is just not be crazy. And it's like, that's not how it works, man. Your brain literally is like diseased. It's like there's something genuinely wrong with the way you think, with the way that you perceive reality.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what they don't get. And I think mental illness is more rampant today than ever. And that and I think it always has been really rampant. We just dismiss a lot of it as other things.
Yeah.
Whether it's superstition or a lot of religion.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of mental illness. There's a lot of people who are mentally ill, people are just like, no, they're just religious. And it's like, yeah, but they're like way too religious.
Yeah.
That's mental illness. They just have, you know, it's like, oh, I'm talking to the voice in my head, and people are like, wow, what a nut. I'm talking to God. Oh, wow, that person's really interesting. It's literally the same freaking thing in my head. But getting back to what I was talking about earlier, I think one of the reasons people don't want to acknowledge the idea that trauma could, you know, bring you to a sexual orientation or conclusion about yourself is because that suggests something along the lines of like, you know, gay conversion therapy or something, that you can have it like, if you had it beat into you, you can have it beat out of you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand the inclination against the thought towards, well, it's just learnt behavior and it can be unlearned. And it's like, yeah, but as I said, there are, in my opinion, and I just don't see an argument against it, there are some people who have trauma that have made them a certain way.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people who literally was just born that way, right? And then there's other people who knows, right? There's another spectrum of them. But I just don't like the like, you know, black and white description of anything. I just never find that to be very constructive. That everything is just this way.
Yeah.
We are all just this.
Yeah.
And that's it forever. Like, no, that's just not how shit works. So anyway, Martha is such a fascinating character.
Yes, she is.
His, you know, Donnie's relationship with his trans girlfriend, and that whole subplot there, and their relationship, him living with his ex-girlfriend's mom, him not able to fuck his girlfriend, and then he starts masturbating to the thoughts of Martha because she's so toxic, and he gravitates towards toxicity because that's where he feels most comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's honestly where I related the most, you know, is in that place of like, you feel comfortable in the insanity. That's where my anxiety comes from, as growing up in a household which was always chaotic.
Yeah.
I naturally regress into an anxious state because that's what I learned as a kid, was that anxiety was like my homeostasis.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what it should be, right?
Yeah.
That's when you have to step back and you go, this is broken. And he recognizes that to a degree, right? Like, he understands what he's doing, but it's hard to hold back those urges, those desires, you know. He's embarrassed by them as well. He's not proud of it.
No, it definitely is like self-sabotaging, you know, abusive behavior towards himself. And
I feel like the comedy is that too. It's like,
he
likes to go up there.
I know.
And almost like it's part of his masochism.
Yes,
he goes up there and he puts himself on full display. It's where he gets to kind of really be himself.
Yeah.
And then he gets just berated and no one laughs, and it's like, it's very humiliating.
Yeah.
And he likes the humiliation, but what Martha gives him is she gives him the attention he's always craved.
Yes.
She genuinely looks at him like he's not broken, and that she would see him for what he is, and no one else around him will.
Oh, it's
right?
just like, this is why it's so crazy, because like, he wants so badly to be seen, but she isn't seeing him for how he is. She's seeing like
Yes.
her fantasy of what he is.
But
and that's what's so
he's doing the same.
Exactly. That's what's so crazy about like their relationship and connection is just like neither of them is actually genuinely seeing the other, but they keep like, especially him, he tricks himself over and over again into thinking that he's like having this deep connection with her. Like when he's listening to all of the voicemails that she sent him for like weeks or months or whatever, and it's just like that is crazy. Like to just, and there is a lot of ego attached to that too, to be like, this person is like obsessed with me and
yeah.
I'm obsessed with the fact that
I'm the center
that
of their universe.
Yeah, and that's crazy too. Because like the sheer volume of like emails and
we didn't even talk about the text
messages
sent from iPhone.
Yeah, like
that shit
and
was hilarious.
They're all like poorly spelled and just.
It's because she's so frantic. She's
Yes.
sending them so fast.
Yes.
She's not even spell checking
so
them.
crazy.
The fact that she tries to like make it seem like she has money and she has an iPhone and she keeps hyping in sent by iPhone, and then it just gets more and more distorted.
Like my iPhone.
Like, and then like iPhone.
It's crazy. Yeah, the misspellings. But I was going to say that like I like also that this show, like whenever he goes to the police and is like trying to report her and stuff, I like, you know, if the roles were reversed and it was a man stalking a woman, like people would take that a lot
Way
more
more
seriously because there is the threat of violence when the man is involved.
Have you seen Martha?
And yeah, and like even though statistically it's like kind of less likely that she would physically like attack him, it still is dangerous what she's doing, and it still is absolutely harassment and not okay.
Not
so it's like
close.
yeah, like there's definitely a imbalance when it comes to that, and I just think that they should be taken, you know, seriously as well, of course, like if a man is being stalked by a woman. But I don't know how often men are stalked by women. Like I don't know what
I mean, I was.
how commonly, yeah.
Right? And I've dealt with pathological liars.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I got catfished. Very, very short-lived. I was privy to it pretty quick. I wanted to believe it, so I let it go on a little longer than I should have. But in the back of my head, I was like, I know I'm getting catfished. You know, because I just wanted it to be true, and I probably let it go on for almost a full week where I was just like, we were chatting back and forth, and then I caught her lying like hard. She recorded this song for me, and it was like really touching, and she said she recorded it, like she played the guitar and sang and all this. And then I went on YouTube because I watched Catfish, the movie.
Yeah.
I had literally just seen it. And he does the literal same thing. He goes on and he's like, listens to a cover of it. And he's like, isn't this the exact same song? I'm like, no, this is literally the exact same song.
Yeah.
And so like I had that in the back of my head and I was like, And so I literally typed in, and it was literally the very first cover on YouTube at the top. I clicked on it, and the second it came on, I was like, oh my god, it's the same song.
Yeah.
And even at the end, there's something like where the guitar gets put down and you can hear the bang.
Yeah.
And in hers, it does it at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And like I confronted her about it, and she's like, I don't like, it's not. It's just, I'm sure it sounds similar, but it's not. And I was like, no. And I was so obsessed with getting her to admit she was lying. I literally took the audio wave files and I put them over each other to like do the kind of like DNA match basically, and sent those to her. And she still was like, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I am telling you, this, I did not do that. This is literally me singing. I'm like, okay, call me and sing it to me right now. And she just wouldn't. I was like, I was so obsessed with the pathological nature of her lies.
Yeah.
Where I was like, where are you at right now? Because you're caught. It's over, right? Like, it's when you walk in and your wife has a dick inside of her and you're like, you're cheating. And she's like, No. You're not. No, that's not. I'm not me.
Yeah, I don't know.
This
why.
isn't even a real man. You know what I mean? It's
I've
like,
definitely had that happen.
no, I
in my
need
life.
you to answer me. Why can't you be honest?
I don't know why people
when you're
do
caught.
that. Like, yeah, when somebody is like, you're like, I literally just proved that you're lying. Like, why are you still trying to pretend like you're not? It's really weird, but
that is the very definition of gaslighting. And
Yes.
some people get very upset about that word now. They're like, oh my God, it's so overused. If you haven't been gaslit like that, then you can't talk. Because
It's
when
a
you are
horrible feeling.
when you are like 100% concrete evidence and you bring it to them and they're still like, no, you're crazy.
It's
You actually start to be
horrible-
like, am I out of my fucking
100%.
mind? And I had to go to like 5 different people
Yeah.
with that audio stuff and be
Yeah.
like, this is the same song. And they're like, Jason, of course it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not insane, right?
It's
but
crazy.
They're so crazy they make you think
And,
you're crazy.
I mean, that's none of that is what happens in the show, obviously, but like what I like thinking about like what Donnie goes through, like the level of stalking and everything, like I could not imagine like that happening to me or like just even my sister or like you, like especially now that like the internet is so massive and everything, and I just think, yeah, it's probably a lot easier for stalkers to do their thing online. And
But Martha does so much of her stalking in person. She's so ballsy.
she's
right?
just going to his work, but that's like what you said happened, like where like your person was like at your work.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something where it's like when you're at your job, if you work in customer service and somebody just keeps coming in. And
But my
you're like,
stalker wasn't like walking into my work when I was trying to work and start singing and start screaming that like he tried to fuck me up the ass.
I know,
and all
that kind
and it's
of
like,
stuff.
oh my God.
Yeah.
I did not get stalked like this. This guy's got next level stalker here.
Yeah, I really wonder too, like the differences between female stalkers and male stalkers, because obviously when I think about a male stalker, I'm like, he's stalking somebody to kill them. Like he's gonna kill you and like kidnap you and murder you.
Yeah, her
like,
end game is like they're gonna be
she's
together.
Like, yeah, and she's so emotional about it.
Because she keeps trying to take that away from him the whole time.
Yeah.
She's like, you ruined it. We're never gonna be together.
Also, the way he handles her, like, there's so much of him playing into her delusions to try and get her to stop. Like, when he'll be like, I'm breaking up with you. Or when he does try to entrap her. All these moments that I'm like, that's really not the way to deal with it, though. Like,
how do you deal with Martha?
But it's not, because it's just like, he thinks he's gonna speak her language, but it's like I feel like you cannot play, like if somebody is delusional and thinks that they're in a relationship with you when you're not at all, I feel like the absolute worst thing you can do is continue to encourage them and say, yeah, we're in a relationship in some way. Like any kernel, literally any little thing that you give them, they're gonna like latch onto and be like, this is confirmation that what I thought is true. So I feel like it's just from the beginning, it's like this snowball effect of like all of his reactions to her.
It's ill-advised.
Yeah.
No doubt. But he's at the end of his rope, right? And he's dealing with his own sexuality. He's dating a trans woman that he doesn't want her to find out about. He doesn't want his friends to find out about it. He is so worried about what everybody thinks about him that with Martha, he's not very confrontational, right?
Yeah.
He is a total coward in a lot of ways, and he doesn't want to deal with things, and he tries a multitude of different tactics, just kind of whatever he comes up with on the spot. And I respect that, honesty in the recounting of this story, because he could have made himself look like the hero.
Sure.
He could have told this in any way he wanted. That's why I don't doubt what he's telling us is true. Because he makes himself look so bad so often. And if it was fake, it would just be like Martha was a villain and I was the victim, and it's just, and that's how typical stories go. And those are always entertaining, and those are always like big hits. And, so it's not like this is needed to stand out from the pack. I mean, I could see him being like, well, if I'm more honest, people will think that it's honesty when I'm really lying. It's possible. Yeah. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's how bad he makes himself look that I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if you'd lie about that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and another thing we're not talking about here, another really messed up part of the show that is wonderfully handled here and shocking in the moment, and you don't expect it for a second, but when it happens, you're like, this makes perfect fucking sense. And it's such a fantastic moment, and it's only like 10 seconds of the show. And it's his dad admitting that he was raped by the Catholic Church. Yeah. He doesn't even have to say it. He just says, do you think less of me?
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And he's like, I was raised in the Catholic Church. Like, it's like, oh. And it's like we have to, as an audience, understand what that means in order to piece that together.
Yeah.
But man, what wonderful execution. What a wonderful little performance there by the dad. Mm-hmm. Why he doesn't want to be touched by his son, mm-hmm. why he's so distant, mm-hmm. why he's so angry, why he doesn't want, he stands up to Martha, is because him and his father are both victims of similar things, but they handle them in different ways. Donnie is more of a pacifist and more of a coward with his approach to this situation, as to where when Martha's coming after the dad, he hits it back hard, right? And I don't think she likes what Donnie's bringing her, right? She thinks that he is playing coy, right?
Exactly.
It's because he's not assertive. It's because he lets her in. And it's because he exploits her and plays into her delusions to a degree. And then when he pulls the rug out from under her, she's already primed to be that person anyway. And when you play into that at all, oh my God, you have now made an enemy for life.
I will say, too, that it's easy to, sit here, for me and be like, on the outside, having seen, the whole story and, knowing how crazy things get. But in reality, too, though, in the beginning of everything, he was legitimately just trying to be kind to her and nice to her. And, I think everybody has had an experience where you've, had somebody that you're like, I don't really want to be, your friend or anything, but I don't want to be mean to you. I'm going to be, nice or whatever. And not that it turns into, they're suddenly stalking you, but, that moment where you're just like, I'm going to, show you some kindness, right? Which is good to do, obviously. I think you should always want to be kind to people, but he just doesn't know where it's going to go and how much that means to her. And that actually is, the way that the show ends. I really, really appreciated that because, you could be that person that's having a terrible time in your life where literally everything is going wrong and you're struggling with mental illness. And then that stranger just reaches out and is like, here you go, have it on the house or whatever. And it means a lot. It means a lot more than, that person is thinking that it's going to mean to you.
Yeah, starting the show with this act of kindness that leads down this hugely dark path and ending the show on the reverse of him going into a bar, having forgot his wallet, and the bartender being like, it's okay, it's on me. And just him kind of having that moment of seeing that as so heroic or so alluring in the moment of we have so little acts of kindness that are bestowed upon us as adults out in the real world, right? People tell you I don't have this or I have that. There's so many times where people are like, get fucked, loser. Right. And it's that moment. It can change your life. Yeah. And it did change his life for the worse. Yeah. But also, here's the thing, and this is an important part. Martha maybe ultimately benefits from this in the end, going to jail. She went to jail before and didn't seem to fix her. And this isn't the United States, so I don't know how the prison systems are over in the UK or Europe or whatnot, but we don't have a reform system here, unfortunately. We have a revolving door. Yeah. But so I don't really know, because we don't really get to know what's going on with Martha. We only really see his version of events of what Martha's life's like through him. But Martha is actually what ultimately leads to him fixing himself. So Martha ends up being this kind of like blessing in disguise for him, where if it wasn't for her, he would have stay closeted. Stay closeted. Did no closeted.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's a hard fucking word to say. But he would have. He he goes up and he does his comedy act, and it's like Martha that gives him his confidence to continue.
Yeah.
That she's the one that kind of gets the audience in on it, right? Martha's the one who makes him have his moment with his ex, the girl, and then he goes back and he has the moment where he's trying to be with her, and he finally gets to like be okay and go home to his parents because Martha's gonna out him.
Right.
She's gonna be like, I'm gonna tell your parents what a fucking fag you are and all this stuff. And so he runs home and he tells his parents, and he has this really wonderful moment where he's accepted by his parents, and he would have never done that if it wasn't for Martha.
Yeah.
So Martha ends up being this complete blessing in disguise for him. And that, of course, weighs on your conscience as well. It's like she's going to jail, and now I have this wonderful relationship with my parents that I didn't have before. I'm in the good graces of my ex-girlfriend's mom again, and she's helping me get back on my feet.
Yeah.
My the trans girl, like I don't remember her name,
Terry.
but Terry, she's with someone else who's better for her, which is ultimately what led to that, and I get to see that and see her happy. Like, there's so many things that happen, and then he obviously goes off and does his comedy, and now has this hit show on TV.
Yeah.
So Martha was like, yeah, she was a pain in the ass, but when you come out on the other side of things, he really benefited from Martha. Unfortunately, it's not the best way to go away about these things, of course, but ultimately, I feel like he is a better person because of what happened to him.
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to have bad. This is why I talk about like bullies and how necessary they can be at times. Like, so many people who overcome adversity thrive, and the people who never have any adversity, they're like the most boring ass people who never do anything with their life. And it's like, is adversity something that is, intrinsic to our ability to thrive as an interesting adult who is actively pursuing something passionately? Like, is it absolutely required? Like, is every single person that's ever like had a super interesting life been bullied or had adversity? Some adversity, 100%. I don't think there's any way you can go throughout life without having adversity. And overcoming the odds to some degree, although there are people who are born with like silver spoons in their ass, but those are like the worst of the worst people in the world. That's why nepotism is so seldomly successful, right? Like in that way with rich people, those people always grow up to be the worst fucking people. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing to acknowledge that Martha is kind of a savior to him, to what he becomes. He has to do it himself, so to speak, but it's through Martha. And I don't know. How do you feel about that?
She's definitely a catalyst for sure.
Yeah.
For a lot of things in his life.
But she makes him realize so many things about himself.
I mean, it sucks because it's like, I don't ever want people to go through trauma. But I mean, it is, I guess, when you do go through something like I do think it's good to be positive and look at the silver lining when you can. You can still be angry and still hate that things happen to you, of course, but it's also, once you're on the other side of things, like, you can't change what's happened to you. So if you can find positives from it, and especially if there has been growth and like good things that ended up happening, like we've talked about it too. Like, obviously there's things like in my past and your past that, like, if we hadn't experienced, we wouldn't be here together.
Of course.
So I don't know. I don't think everything happens for a reason, but when things do happen, that's how they happen. So,
Well, I think it's smart to find reason within the things that happen.
I think that is like the main thing that humans do, is like you're gonna find a reason for something, because the alternative is way too bleak and nihilistic, and I don't think that's helpful for anybody. But yeah, it was a great show. Definitely a really interesting watch, and it is a show that made me feel, as I said, a lot of different things.
What's interesting about Donnie is that he is a character who kind of, and this is true of a lot of us that have been broken. I've always used humor as a way to mask my anger and to kind of live vicariously through other people's laughter, because I myself feel, kind of hollow inside. Making other people laugh feels like you're accomplishing some bit of happiness in the world. And that's kind of what makes him want to be funny, right? It's like he wants the attention on him in a positive light, but he also likes to be somebody else. And kind of be this clown who's putting on a persona and brings happiness to people because he feels so much misery inside.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that to me is that, and this is for my own personal taste, so I am a little biased here, but the only time Donnie is actually funny is when he embraces his more nihilistic dark side, right? It's when he's trying to be the funny guy. It's when he's trying to be lighthearted. Is when he's not funny at all. He's like, because that's another thing that's something we didn't even discuss here, is like the level of cringe and uncomfortable moments. Like Kaylee legitimately wanted to shut the show off multiple times because you were so uncomfortable with the awkwardness.
I got
of scenes.
Really bad secondhand embarrassment from a lot of scenes in this, for sure. And the dark comedy in the show works really well because it's dark comedy. Like it is when things are really bleak and just awful, and then there's like some joke that's cracked or something that's said that's unintentionally, very funny in the moment, in a very dark moment, and it just works.
Or it's intentional.
Or
right?
it's intentional, but both.
There's a part of his
happen.
act where he kind of comes out and he's really, really goofy, and then he like stops it and he's like, oh, so my mom died. Yeah. That got me. That was funny. Like the way he delivered that, but that's the darkness. Yeah. Right? It's when he's trying to be lighthearted. That doesn't work because that's not authentic to who he is. And I think the nihilistic darkness, it translates well through him as a vessel because he's somebody who can accurately represent that level of darkness and depravity and like a self-awareness of the darkness within. So I think that's why it works for him, and I know that from personal experience. All my humor is as dark as it comes, and I just found that interesting within the show. When he's trying to be like silly and playful, he's never funny. He's like unbelievably unfunny that it's hard to watch. Yeah. And it's when, and then of course the one last scene I guess I'll talk about, because we could talk about this for way too long and we already have, but the last scene I'll talk about is his breakdown on stage and him admitting, and that's really tough to watch. Yeah. But that is his moment. And that's kind of the classic Hollywood moment. Yeah. So to speak. But I really like how it's handled. It goes on so much longer than I expected it to. He keeps going, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like he's like, I'm getting off stage. Fucking turn off the red light. Like, and it's like 5 minutes later, he's still going, and I'm like, oh my God, would people really sit there and listen that long before they started booing or started being like, I came to laugh? He's laying it on pretty heavy for a crowd that wants to just have a good time.
Full on breakdown for sure.
But he needs that moment.
He does. He needs to get
Do
it
the
all
other
off
people need that moment? Probably not. Yeah, but that's what ends up making him famous, is his admission of everything that he's been hiding. When he finally comes clean, when the truth comes out, he gets his parents, he gets his girlfriend back, his mom and all that stuff, or her mom. He gets the career. He gets it all. And he even throws it away once he gets it because it's not what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah,
then he becomes obsessed with Martha, and he has this whole like he's trying to understand the enigma that is Martha.
Yeah. It's he goes downhill again very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think that's his, like, confession is very similar to the show in general. Yeah. Like, it's getting a lot of fame and attention, and it is him being, like, very brutally honest about something, in his life that it doesn't make him look the best, as you said. So
it's interesting to me that he is such a good actor, because so many people could have went through this, and if they tried to play themselves, it would just feel awful.
Yeah.
Right? Like, other people can play you better than you because you're not a professional actor.
Right.
And from what I'm seeing in this show, it doesn't seem like he's an actor. He's like a goofy comedian guy who gets up on stage and does the Donnie Dump, whatever the hell it is, Donnie Don't, or
I don't remember.
I don't know what the hell it is. Which all that stuff is painfully awful.
Yes, yeah.
But that's like what's funny about it is just how. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know where what was I saying?
Just him as an actor being able.
Oh
to
yeah,
play
it's
himself
incredible.
So well.
Like,
yeah,
I've not seen people play themselves much, in movies. Howard Stern played himself in his own Private Parts movie, and there's not a lot of movies I remember where the person plays themselves. I've seen a few over the years, but man, this has to be, off the top of my head, the best performance I've ever seen given by the person who's playing themselves in a movie, in a show or a movie. It just feels so authentic, so raw, so well done. So, anyways, that's that. Anything more to say? Because we've been talking about this for like an hour.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, Baby Reindeer, I hope you guys hung out. I know this is more of a podcast style. This is kind of classic Sinister cinema. But when I watched this, I was like, man, I got to talk about this. There's so many things. And there's going to be things people disagree with. I'm sure the LGBT, the segment of this is going to maybe get some pushback, but it is what it is. I'm open to have the conversations as long as they're, they're attempting to actually have some kind of actual discussion as opposed to just you freaking, homophobe or some bullshit. It's such bad faith arguments. It's like you're not presenting anything there by just ad hominem attacks, right? Going after people for, name calling or labels or any of that stuff. It's like that doesn't do anything. Bring actual conversation. Tell me why I'm wrong. Say, here's the data. Here's my evidence that no one's sexual orientation has ever been changed by trauma. I'd like to see it. Honestly, if you got the data, I'd love to see it. But your opinion is just your opinion, and so is mine.
Yes.
So that's that. All right, guys. Let us know what you thought about the show. If you're still here, let us know that as well. I always like to hear people say, I always stick around. And there's a few people that you can always count on for that. So we love you for hanging out this long with us. This is those kinds of discussions that's like, this is more of a podcast. This is more of just like an open discussion. Yeah. This is what I do like and enjoy doing. This is why I started the channel. It's just to have a more honest discussion. Except for I used to do this alone, which actually made me look like a crazy person.
Yeah, you were pretty crazy because you did like thousands of videos just ranting by yourself.
Maybe I am nuts. Maybe I'm Martha.
No.
All right, we got to walk the skunk. So, we love you, and we'll see you in the comments.
Bye.